we thought, okay, well, we got a nice sculpt, great. I don't want to say that's the easy part, but you now have to get it molded. You have to get out of the mold what you sculpted, and you got to reproduce it faithfully a few thousand times, get it in a package, and then get it shipped safely around the world. These are pieces of fine art. So I have to get it to you, and we have to get it there safe and sound and make sure it's the best quality. So on the production side, and then, we have to be a business. We have to, do sales and marketing and figure out how to let people know about it and get it to them. So if I'd have known how hard it was, I had a real appreciation. I don't know if we would have started.
Right. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast, the podcast taking a behind the scenes look at all things music. I'm Cassius Morris, Joe Pacheco joining me on the line as per usual. What's going on, Joe?
Usual.
Hey, we're doing the laid back version today,
Yeah. No, I'm doing good, man. Good times. Spring is in the air. So many things happening, so just trying to, keep everything positive and, and just day by day. You? How's it going?
Feeling good. Definitely good vibes over here at SoundMojo, SoundMojo, and we appreciate you guys checking in for this brand new episode of the show. Joined today by special guest Tony Simerman from KnuckleBonz, an incredible company making some of the most state-of-the-art collectibles in the world of music, period, but mostly in rock. And Joe, I think this is really going to be a treat for our listeners today.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. This is something I didn't, fell on our lap sort of thing, and I'm like, this is perfect for us, right? Little collector memorabilia. I'm not a collector per se in the sense that I don't go after stuff to collect for monetary value. I just collect stuff that I like, like I have old stereo amplifiers, a reel-to-reel over here, some old microphones, but nothing like, that's like probably, going to be, my nest egg in the future,
See, I used to be a big time collector because I was a Kiss fan and I started young. So I wanted the figures, I wanted everything Kiss. And I actually used to have a collectible room. Nowadays, my walls are basically bare. It basically looks like what you see behind me. So, it's one of those things, but some boxes at my parents' house, definitely full of collectibles. So if you're into that, this is the episode for you, and stick around for the interview portion coming right up. Rock icons Bono and The Edge from U2 appeared in a brand new interview with Zane Lowe on Apple Music, teasing their upcoming performance, or hopefully more than one performance, Joe. We're not quite clear on what they're going to do quite yet, at the Las Vegas MSG Sphere. Now, for anybody who hasn't heard about this venue, I highly recommend that you look into it more after this segment. But this is a 360-degree sphere in Las Vegas that is specifically made for music and entertainment. This isn't a stadium where you can go see a hockey rink, as Bono points out, or a hockey game. This is a spot that you can only go and see live music. And you two are very, very excited about this, Joe.
Dude, I had no idea about this. This just came on my feed, and like in all, transparency, we got rid of a story we already had planned because when I saw this, I'm like, this is really cool.
This takes precedence.
But you've been following this, so you know a lot more than I do. But just looking at this thumbnail, I'm like, look at the size of this place, right? And look, from here, it says it could be playing for 10 to 18,000 people, right? So I hope it's not for one gig because it's still not finished being constructed and all that stuff. And they don't even know when the final date, when it's going to be ready by. So I wouldn't think, I would honestly not think that they would do this for a gig or two,
Yeah, definitely wouldn't be worth the promotion.
But in the video we saw, they still said they're still touring, physically touring, going around the globe and stuff. So it's kind of weird, like this, I don't even know what the investment was to get into this. So maybe it's not just for them. Maybe eventually one day they're on tour, there'll be other events. But anyway, I mean, nothing beats a picture, right? Like a picture or a video. So we'll get into a video and show you like exactly what it looks like and stuff. But it's really just like, I think at the most cutting edge of technology in terms of visual and sound technology.
It really is. Also, for anybody looking at the photo here now, you see the black outside. What you're actually looking at, though, is 360 degrees of LED screens. So literally the entire thing, guys, is going to have animation. I can just picture when a band comes to town, Kiss, they're going to have Gene Simmons walking up there. I mean, it's going to be really cool. So like Joe said, let's look at some video.
Yeah. So for you, that must be something that is
really excited
essentially.
How cool does that look, man?
Wow.
So there are no speakers. The entire building is a speaker. So wherever you are, you have perfect sound is the plan.
I mean, immediately, I'm obviously completely overwhelmed by the scale of it, but I've been in places that are big on scale before.
Of course.
What I'm really trying to get my head around is the fact that this by design is for watching and listening and experiencing art.
Yes.
Too.
There's nothing else like it in the world and won't be for many, many years.
The last sort of innovation in theater was the proscenium arch, about 1,000 years BC. The entire building, it's transmitting an image at the highest resolution that has ever been seen on Earth. So, meaning if you look at it, it's photoreal. It's at a level of resolution that you will not even detect the shape.
I can't wrap my head around this.
You can make the shape of the sphere go away.
I'm speechless. I'm just speechless. I'm just listening to what Bono was saying, and it's like, yeah, the most resolution ever seen on the planet. This is, and I now that I'm watching this again, it's for art, so it definitely is going to be other things. So they're just, I guess, the guys who are putting it together with, I'm sure there's like hundreds of people working on this project, obviously.
It's insane to actually think of. And, looking at the excitement of Bono and the Edge, Joe, I mean, this is no surprise to anybody. These guys are no spring chickens. You name it in the music business, they've done it. You name the type of venue, they've played it. I mean, there's very little that I think that can really get music veterans to this, at this stature, to get this excited. So, I mean, this is actually getting me excited about this venue because, again, it's obviously a game changer, even for a band who's been performing for, 40, 50 years.
Yeah. And like, they're like, obviously U2, Pink Floyd, like all these big shows where it takes days or a week to set up your show in a specific town, right? So like you said, they've done it all. They've seen it all. They've probably been told, we can't do that. We can't do that.
Yeah.
We can't do that because of logistical reasons. And now it's here. It's like, no, well, now people come to us, so we can do that, right? Because I mean,
exactly.
You can't travel with something like this. It would take months to put up in every city, right?
Exactly. You have to set up shop. And, again, Las Vegas, definitely the town of the residency. So why not take that up a notch? It's one thing to have a residency that's, comparable to other places, but I think now that they have something that's unique to them, it's definitely going to blow up. So I'd be curious to ask our audience, Joe, who do you guys want to see perform at the Sphere in Las Vegas? And, for me personally, U2, I wouldn't mind seeing, honestly.
In all honesty, U2 is probably one of the bands that I've listened to the longest in my entire life because my older brother was listening to them by the time I was in the 4th grade. So I've known from, Under a Blood Red Sky, all those albums and stuff. So but yet I've never seen them. I just thought about that. And I know why I have not seen them, because it's always been this crazy grandiose affair with 80,000 people. And I just don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to take 6 hours home. I don't want to be there all day. I know.
It's huge.
First world problems. And I'm probably going to regret missing them. I get it. Because now I'm sure their next tour is probably going to be like $400 a ticket kind of thing, So whatever. Maybe I missed
for the nosebleed. But
something like this is more than just U2, right? So I'd get to see U2 and I'd get to experience this type of, what do you call this, man? Like this experience. I don't know.
Yeah, I think experience is the best way to put it. So again, let us know down below in the comments who you would like to see performing at the Las Vegas Sphere. Pop star Grimes has spoken out about AI making music with her likeness and her voice, saying that she's completely okay with artificial intelligence using her sound. In fact, she went as far to say that she would share 50% of profits on any successful AI-generated song using her voice. It's pretty generous, Joe.
Yeah, she says, feel free to use my voice without penalty because she's got no legal binding, so she's not signed or anything. Well, I did find it interesting that, she seems to be obviously like someone on the cutting edge, obviously. You can see from this picture, it's not someone who's just going to wear a Metallica t-shirt or something like that. So someone very creative, and very free. She's giving anybody the opportunity to use her voice, right? Well, what's interesting is that it's successful or super popular songs. So what happens if you write something that doesn't go nowhere, but you still make $20,000 or like you license it for something? What happens there? That's curious.
Well, successful is, on a different scale for somebody like her, right? So what might be successful to a guy like us, may not qualify for her. So that's a good question.
Like if I get if I use her vocal and blah, blah, and it gets me like a $15,000 placement on a Netflix or something, like how does that work now? Am I going to be in trouble because I'm using her voice without permission? It's commercial. So there's a lot of little things still to figure out. But, like anything, man, AI is so disruptive in so many different things. And maybe this will be, because like our laws are antiquated, like they're just, we saw it at the beginning with Napster and all that stuff where the industry refused to change its terms and whatever until finally iTunes said, here, 99 cents a song kind of thing. Yeah. Whether you're for it, that's not besides the point, but it's just like, we're always like at the point where we can't catch up. It takes longer to make the rules as the rules are being, as like the rules are being destroyed, and
everything else is moving so much faster.
Yeah. So this hopefully, because like we said in the past about AI, right? Musicians have been dealing with this kind of sort of stuff forever, like drum machines, like loops being used. You don't need to get a drummer. You can, with all the plugins and stuff. But I think,
it's true.
Like a lot of now the artists got, or were shocked with this kind of stuff because, they, and rightfully so, they weren't asked permission to have their art scanned or studied or examined by a computer and stuff. But I mean, there's so many like little details that, it's like if you look at something, an art in public with your eyes, well, you're going to get inspired from that, right? So, or like when you hear a song, it inspires me to write something similar, or I like that idea, so I'm going to make it my own kind of thing.
No doubt.
I don't know where the future holds for artists in general and, for AI and music and stuff. What do you think?
Well, it's hard to say. I think we do know what it holds in a sense, a lot more AI. That's the one thing we can guarantee is that there's going to be so much more of this and it's going to keep expanding. Obviously I'm being tongue in cheek. I understand that like how we react to it is something that's unknown and what we're going to do to really combat it. So, I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that, but I do think it's definitely interesting. And we're also seeing, a lot of discussion, as we can see here, about assistive versus generative AI. And, obviously we see this photo with some of the biggest heads of music and entertainment companies in the business. Yeah. And the caption is a sobering chat on AI at CRS. So what do we really take from this article, Joe? Because I guess there's different types of AI, and that's something that's worth factoring in.
Well, there's a lot of little details in here and stuff, but like in general, right? Like generative AI is like, make me a song like that with rap lyrics in rap lyrics like Eminem, but with music from The Weeknd, pop, and then the AI will spit out something for you and whatever. Or just the assistive stuff, which is like maybe in mixing or whatever, like here, my song's a rock song, make it sound like it should sound like, mixed by this guy, and there's a lot of plugins and a lot of presets and stuff that, will get you in the ballpark or literally what you're asking for. And it's only going to get better. One thing I did find interesting in this article was somewhere lower here, where, I think it's here, the Ditto. Yeah. So recently Ditto Music surveyed 1,300, let's say, independent artists that are actively releasing music in 2023. So very recent. Surprisingly, that survey showed that 60% of musicians are already using AI to make music. Wow. That's really shocking to me because I don't use AI to make music in the sense of like inputting and prompting and stuff like that. Like, I mean, obviously I use, plugins and beats that already exist and make them work. So maybe that's AI in a sense, but it's interesting. And a mere 28.5% said they would never use AI. I never say never because for me, it's a tool to get me to where I want to go. If it gets me there that much faster, I'll definitely explore it,
Well, if more ways come up that make sense. And again, that's why I feel like it's too early. Like, we've only been having this type of AI available to the general public for like a year. So it's like, I know that they can harness it somehow, but how they can do it, Joe, is really complicated. And like you're saying, something like a preset, I mean, something like, things like that on your DAWs. How close is that to AI? Because like if you're completely changing your voice or the sound of an instrument via a computer, That's more or less AI, right?
Well, it depends because you can manipulate it using effects and stuff yourself without making a computer do it. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's like example, there's certain EQ plugins that'll be like, all right, it'll scan your song and it'll scan, let's say, a Deftones song, if it's like similar, and it'll get you in the ballpark of how that EQ in the mastering is applied, so that's AI, right? It's assisting you. That's assistive AI, but this is sort of what I was saying, like, because we are in the 100-year-old copyright laws are at play. At the end of the day, it's going to have to be legislative solution and combined with a tech solution, right? So fingerprinting or something, because if anybody could, like example, if AI has been trained on X amount of songs and, eventually it's going to repeat itself, right? It's not going to, you're going to have the same thing as me. And then because like in terms of where I've been experimenting with the with art, generative art, right? So example, when I type in a prompt, blah 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 blah, and I hit it, it's also available to the public, so anybody can take that prompt and just make one tweak and reuse it. But that image can be used by anybody. So it's the same thing with AI music. Will it be usable by anybody? And then how are you going to find out who owns the copyrights when you need to get paid? It's like it's very. Wow. Very tricky.
I mean, maybe that's why they're trying to stop it from the gate, because, if nobody can get paid, then those issues are going to, be prevented. But again, I mean, if I'm sure it's going to come to a point as well where people start using AI for their own voices. I'm sure that, that they'll, instead of saying, write me a hit weekend song, they'll probably give their voice and say, write me a hit song, and then maybe just go and do it. So, it is very interesting, but we will need to have checks and balances to see, okay, like, did you make this or not? Because nowadays the line is getting blurred. But definitely make sure to let us know in the comments what you guys think about AI in music. Hopping over to the SoundMojo Community tab, of course, the place on our YouTube channel where we post different polls, different suggestions, and different questions to get in touch with what you guys are listening to and watching in the world of music. And here we asked, which music-related movie is your favorite?
Obviously, we only have 4 options. We can't put every musical movie. So I chose some of the more, ones that came to my attention, and a personal favorite here in Almost Famous. So anyway, our audience chose 47% for Bohemian Rhapsody. Next being Almost Famous at 21%, and Ray at 17%, and Walk the Line at 15%. So what was your, what would you pick? What was your pick?
From this list, I would say Almost Famous for sure. I'm definitely partial to that one. Having started like interviewing, musicians like at 10, I could definitely relate to the kid. He maybe had a cooler story than me, but it definitely was relatable in some senses. But my favorite guilty pleasure music movie, Joe, is Detroit Rock City. Did you ever see that movie? That one was just so funny. It was so zany and so off the wall. That has to be my pick. What about you, though?
Well, I definitely would I pick Almost Famous because I don't know what it is about. I saw that movie in the theaters, and I like that it's based on a true story and a lot of stuff like that, and it was great. It was just a great movie, and it's followed me everywhere. Like I own a DVD of it. I own something of it. It's on Netflix. It's like you can watch it on everything. You know what I mean? It's one of those movies that just follows you around,
I feel like it holds up well too.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And if I had to pick one, you were saying Detroit Rock City, just recently I happened to see School of Rock with Jack Black. I mean,
yes.
This makes you laugh, good, wholesome fun and all that stuff. But I mean, that guy's just a beast. Everything he does is just
so funny, man.
Laughing. And he's legit. That's the worst part. He's good. He does it, doesn't
very
care.
likable too. It seems as a person, one of the guys who's always down to earth in videos. I actually got the chance to do security at a Tenacious D show. So I got to see the sound check and stuff.
Oh, how was that?
It was amazing. It was awesome. The only concert we got complaints about the amount of pot smoke. And I said, it probably makes sense. Probably makes sense.
The Pick of Destiny, that movie.
Yeah, exactly. Too good.
So we have a couple of comments here. So Noodle Dog. Okay, now all these are great movies. They're all good, but I think we can agree that Walk Hard is a cinema. Is that Dewey Cox, right? Is that what it is?
I think so, yeah.
I think it's based on Walk the Line, right? I missed that one. That's one of those movies I have to see. I've always told myself, I got to see that movie. I haven't seen it
either. Yeah.
I hope I'm not thinking of the wrong movie. I think that's the movie. John Johnson, which is a SoundMojo artist as well. He's on the channel. I'm just drawing a blank to the name of the artist. I've watched all of those, but Ray Charles is the one I watched 3 times in one day. Wow. I didn't find the other ones particularly interesting, but that's more of a reflection of the filmmakers than of the musicians and the films they're based on. Well said, man. Well said, John.
That's a good point for sure.
Yeah. So Linda Jones, all are great. Oh, but I love The Man in Black. Yeah, I did you watch that movie, Walk the Line?
No, I've never seen that one.
I saw it when it came out, I remember, and I thought it was really good because I had very limited knowledge of Johnny Cash and stuff, but I just thought it was Joaquin did a fantastic job,
I heard he didn't want to do that movie either. He apparently just did not want to do it. He felt he couldn't sing, and he just felt like it was terrible casting. And then for some reason he went with it, and people liked it. Like, it seems like it got really good reviews. Yeah, I know, it was a great movie. I'm fine. Anyway, personally, I think it's great, man. I think it's good. I don't know, a perspective on his life. Jose Villarreal, Crossroads, 1986. Oh yeah, for sure. With Steve Vai and well, I don't know. Well, yeah, was it Robert Johnson? That's it. The story of Robert Johnson. Have you ever watched that? Oh yes, I definitely haven't seen it, but I've seen enough. Like, I've seen the Vi clips for sure. Yeah, I remember like when this was. I didn't see it like in the theaters or anything, but it just showed up on TV one night, and anything with guitar, especially like with Steve Vai or something like that at the end, was so rare when I was a kid. So like I hit my VCR to record it, and I watched it. And I spent hours. I probably busted that VCR trying to figure out all those guitar licks and just rewind, pause, and just trying to figure it out. So sick. I don't know. This is TV01, 200 Motels. I'm assuming Frank Zappa, right? Yeah, sounds like it. I think I've heard. I don't think I've ever watched it. I think I've heard the soundtrack to it. Listen to the soundtrack. Any good? Well, I'm a Zappa fanatic, so yeah, I would say yes. It's always going to be yes. It's always like, fair enough. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of stuff with Zappa that you sort of, because you've passed the whole sound and the production values. If you're not into that, once you get into it, you're really into it. But there's always a bit of a curve sometimes to get into. Maybe it's second, third, fourth listen. You'll be like, yeah, nice. I hear the genius in it, Take some time. Yeah. And then we have Royalness, Rocket Man. Definitely. Okay, Rocket Man. I still haven't seen that one, Joe. Same here, man. I've seen clips and stuff, but yeah, definitely should. We'll have to do a reaction one day. Don't hit it, don't flame us, but like yeah please. Well, thank you everyone for participating, and feel free to go and if you're listening to this, and go on the SoundMojo Community tab and put in your favorites, man, and put in other ones that aren't in this list. We'll definitely be doing a few more of these because there's so many more movies to to explore. Let us know down below in the comments. Now it's time to hop into the guest portion of today's episode. We got Tony Simerman, of course, from KnuckleBonz, the luxury collectible creator who's basically set the standard for rock and roll collectibles in the world of music. It's incredible. He's licensed with all types of different bands, from Kiss to AC/DC, Black Sabbath. The list goes on. And definitely an exciting conversation to bring to you guys. So hopefully you enjoy it. And we'll catch you guys right afterwards. Tony, thank you for joining us on the Innersleeve Music Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
100%. So how's it going today? I can see you're joined by a cast of characters there in the back. We got looks like Sabbath.
Put up a few of my friends here. Yeah, so we have a Sabbath set behind me. We got Death with Chuck Schuldiner there. Witchy Poo right behind me from 3D Vinyl. That's new. Then I've got some stuff off camera here, depending on what you guys are interested in. I can show you.
Very cool. Well, maybe as we go through some of them, we'd love to see anything that you have. How many figures would you say, Tony, do you actually possess where you're at? Would it be in the hundreds and the thousands?
In the studio here, typically everything is here, but it's a working studio. So we've got the lighted stage there. When a product's new, that's where we go. And, it's got a lighting truss and it looks like a live moment in music. But if I were to flip the camera too far, you'd see the dead bodies piled up over here in the chalk line. The place is a working studio, so it's a wreck for anything that isn't right on camera.
Beautiful chaos, right?
Yeah, but we're 20 years old this year, so we don't have everything. So there's a lot of stuff in the vault. But anything that's been produced over the last 3 or 4 years is typically here. We'll set things up and we'll do new displays. We'll get it looking really great, and then we'll work for 3 months, and it goes back to the carnage, the war zone. So I don't want to say we've given up, but that's what it is. If it's a creative place, if it's too clean, you got problems.
That's
exactly.
It, like even when you walk into a recording studio, if it's so clean, you're like, no one's working here. You know, when you go into a studio, right. you have to see the wires everywhere, the chaos.
Yeah, nobody's working.
Yeah.
No, it's so true. So Tony, maybe let's take it back. How long have you been into this? I mean, you make some of the most high-end collectibles, that are known in music, especially rock. How far back does this go for you? Was this like a childhood love, or did this come maybe later in life?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I was in 3rd grade. I had to go from public school to Catholic school. The reasons we're not going to discuss on this show.
Okay.
But so I have to go to a private school, and they don't have any, they don't have a school bus. So my parents have to figure out a way to get me there. They had both worked. So the neighbor kid had just graduated college, and he was like 19. And, I'll date myself. So this is like 1970. And he had a 64 Dodge pickup and an 8-track. And I listened to what Ronnie White, the neighbor kid that drove me to school, listened to. So I grew up with Sabbath, the first Deep Purple albums, James Gang, those kind of heavy bands. And of course, it just, as you know, if that's something you're into, it's at the DNA level. So the first time you hear it, your mind wakes up and it never goes back to sleep. And it never did. So, and that was such a great time because, the original wave of rock has come and is starting to leave. So, there's no Beatles, Yardbird, all the original, groups are now either solo or starting to supergroup out. So that's about the time, Sabbath is happening, Zeppelin's happening about then, ELP's happening. So it was a great time with lots of different stuff. So that's where it started. That's what I would listen to and from school. That's school work. That's like prime listening, right? When you're in the car for that hour or whatever it is, you of course, no cell phones then. That was when you were really locked in and listening, and you did it every day, right? That was the routine. That's where it started. Later, my dad was the director of the Navy band, and he retired from the military, and he took a job in theater management, venue management. So I'm like 9 or 10, and I would just have to go into work with him. And so from the time I was 9 or 10 years old, I was backstage at the places like Constitution Hall and John F. Kennedy Center in Washington. So I was just around it. And it's not only hard rock and metal, I hung out with Sly Stone and Billy Preston and people like that, some of the, George Clinton.
Wow.
Parliament Funkadelic. That might be a given week, right? You might see Willie Nelson, and then the National Symphony would come in, and then, Iggy Pop or Todd Rundgren would come. That's how.
And did that register at the young age that you were, or did it not sink in until later, looking back?
How amazing the opportunity was.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, when you're seeing an act like that, it's amazing. But I'm going to work with my dad. And being so young, I don't want to say I took it for granted, because, I did. I enjoyed it and made sure grades or whatever behavioral milestones were being put out there that I could.
So you could keep going.
It was a good hammer. Yeah, if you want to go to the show this week, we got a math test coming up. I was still a super average student, but it was motivation nonetheless. So I grew up around it. So it's not, it's something I'm comfortable with. I've done it my whole life in that way. Never don't play an instrument. You know, I'm an artist. Have a huge appreciation for music, but never played an instrument, never did anything like that. Just, I'm a super fan. Like, you know, like there's more super fans than great musicians. Right? So.
Yeah, no, that's very true. So I mean, you fell in love with the music obviously very young. Was the art piece, like the physical art, something that you were doing as well, or when did you mix the music exactly with the physical artwork?
Yeah, I mean, I've ever since I can remember, you know, drawing, sculpting, doing something has always been important in what I knew I was going to do. But, you know, album art, that's where the two marry, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, album art then, and I mean, still now, such that it exists, that was some of the most important stuff. You would get it, you would read it, learn everything about it, comb over it, look for secret messages, try to rip off the great album artists, you know, copying what they did and generally failing miserably. But
the tall order with the guys like Number of the Beast, right?
Yeah. So album art, and then back then FM radio is just starting to really get foothold. So you could find some, you know, learn about some things there. But it was, you know, music magazines like Cream and Circus and Hit Parader, and then just going to the record store and flipping through the bins and, you know, holy shit, what is this? You know, the original Kiss record didn't get any airplay. The original, you know, Queen 2 didn't get any airplay, but those were amazing album covers. And you're like, I'm going to take a shot at this, not knowing anything about it, you know.
Who was the first band that you like, sort of like your first crush as a musician or a band?
Band. I mean, Sabbath is right there. Hendrix is, even before the Sabbath stuff, the Monterey Pop film was on television. So I got to see, you know, the Monterey Pop artists. So that's, you know, that's where I learned about the Who. You know, it wasn't listen, the records are on TV. It was the concert film. I think that's the first record I bought with my own money. The Jimi Hendrix on one side and Noel Redding on the other.
Oh wow!
It was like it was before his, you know, record deal to come to the U.S. So if you find that one, that's a good one to have in the collection.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Yeah, he did. The record company didn't believe enough to give him the whole album, so they gave him one side. They gave Noel Redding the other side.
That's interesting. I've never seen that before. Where it's like, let's share, two artists share a budget. You know,
they
like
got a side, and they didn't get his whole set on there. But yeah, to see the concert performance, and now I know what the performance looks like, and to hear the record, that was like a really unique moment. I guess it happens later, but that's the one I remember. Like, you know, I saw it on visually first, and you know, Hendrix was so visual. You can listen to the record, but you know, it ain't the same when you see him, you know, rolling around and smashing the Marshalls and just ripping his ass off into the mic with all the stuff. And they're cutting away to the crowd, and you think the crowd's going to be like, yeah, what? They're like they're totally confused and
zombified,
like,
right?
almost fearful. That's the way it should be, right? Yeah, oh my God, I'm not sure if I like this.
I've even seen this footage from his show in Hawaii that he did, and yeah, people, they just didn't know how to react when they saw him. But I guess again, it was so new that how else can you really react?
Yeah. So we're under license with Hendrix now. We'll probably do the Maui costume. You know, that's really cool with that blue.
Yeah, it's the coolest show. I mean, outdoors, just like the weird hippie environment. Yeah, I love everything about it. So do you remember the first figure that, like, how hard was it to start making figures of this caliber, and how exactly do you go about making these?
I mean, what we do is incredibly hard. You know, it's celebrity likeness, you know, at 1/9 scale. So I'll hold up Cliff here. So you can see, I'll just put my fingernail, my finger. So he's the 1/9 scale. the statue, if they're standing, if it's a 6-foot person, they'll be about 8.5, 9 inches tall or so.
Okay.
It makes the portrait about the size of that.
Okay.
Wow.
So, celebrity likeness at a really small 1-to-1 sculpting scale. We don't sculpt it big and do the trickery to move it down. And what you see there is what was sculpted.
Was it always like computer? Like, do you work? I'm assuming today you work with the computer to make the initial designs, but back in the day when you started out,
KnuckleBonz is 20 years old. I've been in 3D TV film effects, 3D animation my entire career. So I've been in that longer.
Okay.
There was always tools, but they weren't really good enough to do what we do when we started. Now we have digital is involved, but we still do, Rockstar hair is still best just to sculpt traditionally. And some things the computer's good for, that's what we use it for. We don't rely on anything specific. Every statue is the same. Has different needs, but we thought, okay, well, we got a nice sculpt, great. That's, I don't want to say that's the easy part, but you now have to get it molded. You have to get out of the mold what you sculpted, and you got to reproduce it faithfully a few thousand times and get it in a package and then get it shipped safely around the world. These are pieces of fine art. So that's great. I got it to you. Now I have to get it to you, and we have to get it there safe and sound and make sure it's the best quality. So on the production side, and then, we have to be a business. We have to, do sales and marketing and figure out how to let people know about it and get it to them. So if I'd have known how hard it was, I had a real appreciation. I don't know if we would have started.
Right. Well, that's a lot of fields, right? Because it seems so easy, but it's not.
And back then, this is 2003. That's about the time everybody starts to get comfortable putting their credit card number in a web field to do direct consumer. So that was the idea. To focus on music and collectibles was unique, but we were going to be a really direct consumer, direct to fan focused company. That we were really the only ones doing that back then. Now it's commonplace, but
right.
There was a lot of new things like right on top of each other, and we weren't sure if we had an idea, but we actually had to do it to see if it was going to work.
What was it like team wise? Like, was it just yourself? Like, how many people
were you? My wife and I founded the company.
Okay.
And then, I'm an artist and designer, and we had, a couple of sculptors that time. And then a production team for a single statue is about 20 people. And they won't work, 20 people won't work the whole time in the production. People will come on and off. You don't need painters at the beginning when the casting and polishing has happened, and then those guys go on to other projects. But about 20.
Wow.
We've got a piece, but now everything we do is officially licensed, so we have to deal with the music industry and artist management and estates and things like that. So that's a whole nother.
So do you still have hair under that cap, or is that how you or is that because of dealing with the music industry?
I'd like to blame it on the music industry, but I think it definitely had it took its toll. But
that's funny.
Yeah, that aspect of it too that alone can be daunting. So for a small company to put all those things together, we're pretty proud of that. A lot of things go into getting that first one done. The first one was definitely the hardest. We thought a long time about it. Okay, we've got this concept. We want to do live moments in rock, high-end collectible. Who do we start with? That was like set everybody's brains on fire. So you would think, well, you're going to start with Hendrix, the Beatles, Jimmy Page or something like that. And we thought, well, we could probably get to those people, you look and try hard enough. But we were fearful that if we did that and we had success, we wouldn't know if the concept of what KnuckleBonz is, which is, making things for super fans that other companies necessarily won't do, because they're not music merchandising companies. They're toy or collectible companies. We're a music merchandising company.
Right.
So we had to pick something we knew that, maybe the fans were starved and underserved, but it couldn't be such a household name that if we had success, you could point to, well, anything Jimmy Page does is going to be successful.
Right. You wanted to know if the idea itself had merit.
We had a point to prove. So that's why we picked Randy Rhoads.
Yeah.
There's plenty of Randy freaks, right? That just love Randy, and he has his own
guilty idea.
There you go.
Yeah.
But
it's more niche.
It's not such a huge audience and footprint that, it's not a slam dunk. So if we could be successful with Randy, then when it came time to work with Jimmy Page, we'd have everything in place and be able to do it going forward. And that's what we did. And it was hugely successful. And we went on from there. We're working on a couple of variants right now. The current Randy Rhoads that we have in the store now, that's actually in, still in production live, is the one with the red leather suit and the white guitar. So this would have been Blizzard of Oz. He had the brown and the red suits. We don't do a ton of variants. I know that's really popular in toys and collectibles, color variants, slight variants. In this case, we're going to do a variant of that one, provided the Rhoads say okay to it. So we're going to do the brown suit, and we're going to do the Concord Jackson, the white guitar, and then the polka dot with it. And do a super short run. We're only going to probably do about 200 of these. So when these come out, if you're a Randy freak, get on it. They won't last. Long.
I'm looking at it now. He's like standing on white Marshals.
That's his rig, right? Remember he had those rigged, and he had that one black head, the one on the upper left.
Yeah.
So if you look, once they're the stage getting bigger, Blizzard of Oz, you don't see his backline. Yeah. But that was his, that's what he would use so he could hear. So something like that was somewhere, whether you could see it or not on the stage. But if you look at After Hours, the concert video that they did with the TV show in New York, which is like, I think it's really the only pro shop stuff with him. You can see it really well in there. But yeah, the bass, we take a lot of time with that. A lot of times in toys, you don't have a bass a lot of times. And then in collectibles, sometimes it'll be a really amazing sculpt and they'll put it on a pedestal. With us, we spend time, theming it. So with Cliff here, he's got the monitor, that's like Day at the Green, but these skulls on the outside, that's his ring that he wore.
It's so sick.
Right? You see him there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Wicked.
Cliff, that famous photo where he's got his hands out. He's doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the ring.
Oh.
Okay. So the attention to detail, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
We want the thing to function as a complete design and piece of art. We want the statue base to, aid in the design. We don't want it to overpower the thing.
Yeah. Do you have anybody else nearby you there that you could show us? Or I say anybody.
I do. We have this fine young man here from Australia.
Yeah.
So this is what I showed you with Cliff. That's Rock Icons. So that's what we're most known for. But after a few years, we heard, you know what? These are really cool, but I don't collect figures. And I'm a super fan, and this stuff's great, but I've never bought anything like this of any kind, and I never will. And I'm like, whoa, we got to figure out something for that. That type of fan. So we just talked and said, well, everybody loves album, right? Everybody wears a t-shirt. So we thought, what if we take great album art and make it
3D.
That's unreal.
So this is what we call 3D vinyl. So anything that is inspired by album art.
Holy smokes.
3D vinyl. And then on the back, what was ever on the back is etched there. I don't know if I can get the light to catch it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I see it. That's really.
There's only 1982 of those made.
Wow. So that's for the year of release.
Thinking along those lines that not everybody's going to like the statuary category, we came up with what we call on tour.
Oh,
any tour prop that had, it's, an iconic thing that you're only going to see live. So if you went to see Flip in 77 on the Animal Tour, you saw.
Oh, man, that is so cool.
Saw algae for the first time.
Yeah.
And it floats, I'll take it. No, I'm just kidding. That's amazing.
I actually priced like a drone balloon to see if we could make a custom balloon of it and kind of do what Roger does at scale in the live performance. Now it was a bridge too far, so we decided not to do it.
He's got a whole team for that during his live shows now, right? So it's not something you could really do as a consumer.
No, I mean you have those little balloon drone things, but to do. That was a lot to get to do what we would want to do with it. It was just not cost effective. But
yeah,
I'm just curious. Like I'm so happy to hear that. Like you started with Randy Rhoads, because that's how I started my whole musical journey as a kid as well. And same as you, similar. My dad's car, just hanging around. My dad is going to work. 8-track. Sgt. Pepper's was in the car, and that's how I got immersed into the whole thing. I'm just curious, what's the one that's like surprised you and like sold the best?
Randy definitely. Randy has his Phantom and his Freaks. So he's definitely one that was out there. Cliff was.
Yeah.
The response to Cliff was amazing. King Diamond was one that, I thought this is going to be an amazing statue. And we worked right with King on it, and he had never done anything like this. And he saw what we did and thought it was cool. And, at that time, King Diamonds, just to give you some relative, idea, King Diamond's Facebook footprint at that time, just him solo, was about 500,000. So
not bad.
Good, but not,
yeah.
AC/DC, Metallica, or like
right
26, 38. But when we went out with King Diamond, again, fans were underserved. Nobody had really done anything yet for him. And it absolutely killed it.
Man. It's fans, man. It's
every time we think we've got it figured out this is all the elements are aligned.
Yeah.
And everything we do, because we're 20 years old now, everything does well. But I mean, everything can't be number one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We constantly get surprised. I'll think, this is a great design. We've nailed it. And this band is just perfect. And it'll go out and it'll go well.
Okay.
Like, do good. And then we'll have ones that, I don't know about this one. But we're this far down production. We're going to release it. We're not sure about it. And then that one, it blows up. So
right.
This is the entertainment business ultimately. Yeah. And if you knew 100%, what you were doing is going to kill it every time,
yeah. We'd all be millionaires.
Right. I wouldn't have a brick wall. I would have a platinum wall or something.
Yeah.
Right.
It would be, we'd be in a different spot. You just never know.
I'm curious to know, how long does it take? Like, I know obviously the inception and like negotiating and stuff back and forth, that's like hard to do, but like, what does it take, let's say, from conception to like customer bought?
We know what we're doing. If we've got it nailed, like, okay, this artist, this era, this, we've got the costume, the guitar, whatever the era is nailed. And that's the starting point. We're not, trying different things. We're like, this is what we're going to do. We can be ready in 2 or 3 weeks with a sculpt that's really finished to show to the artists, approve everything we do. That's part of being an official licensee. They have to look at it and say, we're good. 3 weeks, I'll be ready to go to them. It's really finished. And we used to show work in progress. We don't anymore. Because no matter what, we would say, here's work in progress. Don't look at this area because, you haven't gotten to it yet. And invariably, that's what.
Yeah, that's the focus.
The boots aren't right. And then when it sits at the top, we haven't sculpted the boot. Now it's just once we're happy with it, we've done everything we can do. We've made it the best that it can be. That's when it goes in and gets looked at by the artist. So that's, if they get right back to us, the hardest part of this business is if an artist is on tour or not gettable, if we send something in and somebody just hasn't gotten to it yet, it's all in stop. We can't do another. We can't do another thing until that happens. So that's our nightmare scenario, which has happened a few times over the 20 years. But once the artist gives us the okay, from the time we say go, we've got our sculpt to get the first wave of production, which will be 1,000 pieces maybe. We never do more than 3,000 of any design.
Okay.
It can be as little as 60 days. It can be 90, 120 if it's something super, super complex on the painting side. The original Jimmy Pages we did with the dragon suits were just insane. We're having to sculpt and paint all that filigree and dragon embroidery.
Yeah.
Those took longer just because it's, we don't have any screen printing. There's no automated stuff. It's an artisan.
1,000 times if you have 1,000 of them. Wow.
Never more than 3,000.
Wow.
And it's like any production. In production, there will be, the portrait painter typically will work on the entire portrait. Some artists in the productions will get the base colors.
Okay, yeah.
Here and base, and then it goes to the portrait painter, and they will sit down and knock out that portrait by hand. So a pupil on something of this scale, Cliff's pupils are less than a millimeter. It's really, really small.
Wow.
Detail. They're big enough where we've got the real estate to do it, but they're not so damn big that we've given you this wonderful collectible. I mean, some of the pop culture and TV and film and comic book stuff, they can get really large in format and they're great. Well, what the hell do I do with it?
Yeah. Can't put it on my desk, right?
Yeah, then it's like
it's an obstruction.
Yeah, and it doesn't fit in a typical bookshelf. So now you have to start having special places for it. The high-end comic book people, that's fine, but the typical KnuckleBonz and Rock Icons kind of fan, they may have a lot of stuff. They don't necessarily have something that's like a big format like that.
Yeah. So have you guys ever looked at, or maybe you have done it, but have you guys ever collaborated on different genres other than rock, or has it mostly just been rock focused?
We have. We did Biggie Smalls.
Nice.
A couple of years ago. We've done some older stuff. We did a Buddy Holly design and Elvis in the Army.
Cool.
And we have, as long as it's music, we're having those conversations all the time. We're most known for rock. As far as a money-making enterprise, that's where most of the focus is. And the thing is, rock fans are super passionate, and a lot of times they're underserved. We know that, so we're working for them. And anytime we do something, we're pretty sure there's 3,000 people in the world that think like we do and are going to want this particular thing. That's all we care about. I don't ever care about an end cap at Walmart and making 50,000 of anything. That's just not interesting. That's for the other side of thing, the toys side. And don't get me wrong, I love it all. I mean, all the companies that do toys and collectibles, I either have or bought something that everybody's done. I just like it. But we've carved out our little spot here. We're going to stay in our lane. We've been tempted a few times with sports and TV and film, things like that. We do have one that's a genre bender coming up. So have you seen the parody picture of Bruce Lee where he's at the turntables?
I think I might have seen it in passing. Yeah.
Yeah. So Tony Stark actually wears it in one of the Marvel movies.
Okay.
And it's somebody's Photoshop a live picture of Bruce Lee doing something, but they put him behind a turntable.
Right.
So DJ Dragon.
Oh shit, that's awesome.
We're gonna do DJ Dragon.
Nice.
I have to search that up now. I see it now. Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Is that gonna be badass?
Put a photo for the viewers.
Sunglasses.
He had the coolest, 60s, 70s sunglasses.
Oh, yeah.
Bruce Lee was so cool. Steve McQueen wanted to be Bruce Lee. That's how.
Right.
That's how cool he was.
I mean, he just had to make a couple of sounds and that move, and that's it, man.
Yeah. But we're having fun with that. But it's still music, right? He's in front of turntables, so
I love that.
We can get away with it.
Well, I'm sure people will be excited for that. And of course, there's a link down below for anybody who wants to go check out the products. I also understand you've passed along a promo code for our listeners here at SoundMojo.
Do you have it there?
Yep.
We do it down in the description below. So if anybody's watching, make sure to go click it. We'll also include a link to all things KnuckleBonz. And we really appreciate your time, Tony.
No, thank you guys. It's always we're pinned down here doing what we do all the time. We don't get out to talk to fans, and we don't get to talk music as much as I would like. We're too busy here slugging it out.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time. And again, all products, the link is down below. Make sure to go check out Tony and KnuckleBonz.
Thanks, guys.
Huge shout out to Tony from KnuckleBonz for taking the time to join us on episode number 116 of the Innersleeve Music Podcast. Joe, I have to say, the dedication and care that Tony puts into making not just the figures, but each individual item at KnuckleBonz is really inspiring. He is meticulous. You can tell every little detail, like he was showing us, from, the bottom of the figure to the sides, even the parts that maybe, you wouldn't be focusing as much on. The attention to detail is there all around. And it was really cool to see.
Yeah, I was so impressed when the whole design process and everything, but also when this hand painted each one. It's like, wow.
It's insane.
That's crazy detail. And you don't get to see the back in a picture of the artist, right? So he has to do a whole 3D rendering, right? So when he showed us the Randy Rhoads, which is so cool because he's standing on the amps, and the detail of knowing that the left or the right, I can't remember now, is a black head instead of the white Marshall head and stuff. That's the detail. That's what the collectors want, right? That's what the collectors know.
Yeah, 100%. Because, they're well versed in this. And we definitely encourage everybody to go and check out KnuckleBonz. We got a link down below in the description of this episode if you're watching on YouTube. So make sure to go show them some love. And we also have a promo code for you guys down below to save a percentage. So we have all the info you need if you want to place an order. And again, I highly recommend it if you guys are a fan of music and a fan of collectibles. Thanks so much for joining us on episode number 116 of the Innersleeve Music Podcast. It's been great to have you guys along for the ride. And make sure to hit that subscribe button again if you're watching on YouTube, and hit the notification bell as well to stay up to date with everything we're doing here at SoundMojo, from the videos, daily uploads, to community tab, and much, much more. Also follow us on social media at SoundMojo. Make sure to go show some love on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Anywhere you can find social media, you can find SoundMojo. And of course, make sure to check out our audio platforms if you are so inclined, and give us a 5-star rating or review on your favorite podcast streaming service. Thanks so much for tuning into this brand new episode of the show. We'll catch you guys next time.